Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. His brother Riot want to give all honor and all glory to the Most High God Yahweh, Bahashim Mashiach, Wamalak Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there on the highways and byways, making their body living sacrifice. In the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprises, the uproars, they're out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but they're building themselves up, reading, praying, fasting, doing everything they could do to put themselves in a position to shake the hand and wake up the hopeful elect. Another strong shalom to all that are mighty akwaf in this thing, sincerely reverencing their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, on fire, zealous, doing everything they could do to magnify the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty akwaf that are not married as of yet, but building themselves up, reading, praying, and fasting. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty children in this thing, zealous of good works, reading, praying, and fasting, doing everything they could do to magnify the Most High, abstaining from all lust, concupiscence, and peer pressure, standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. And last but not least, another strong shalom to the 12 tribes, scattered abroad, reading, praying, fasting, magnifying the Most High and his beloved son, Yahweh Shah. But it's going to be an in-depth breakdown on the 4th of July, the history thereof and the fall of America. Right, let me share my screen. We're going to dive straight into it. We're not going to waste no time. We're going to dive straight into it. All right, most high willing brothers can see the screen. Most high willing sisters can see the screen. We diving straight into it. Let's go to the mighty book of Psalms, chapter 77. This is Psalms chapter 77, right? And I'm going to start at verse 5. I have considered the days of old. And that's something that Jake doesn't do. Jake's always looking ahead. And in looking ahead, you tend to see mirth, enjoyment, gladness. See, when you're drunk in this society and you're drunk in America, you don't remember the days of old. Let me show you what drunkenness does. Let's go to the book of First Esdras, chapter 3 and verse 18. First Esdras, chapter 3 and verse 18. And everybody in America is drunk. They're drunk off of the policies. They're drunk off of the religion, and they're drunk off of all of America's customs. These customs have formed your mind into becoming something that you were never in the ancient world. It has changed your mind, how you dress, how you communicate, your thought process, even your intelligence, how you look at yourself and your brother. You don't look at your brother in the Lord's image. You look at your brother as somebody to rob, steal, manipulate, get over on. This world has corrupted the minds of our people. It's the book of First Esdras, chapter 3 and verse 18. And he said, thus, O ye men, how exceedingly strong is wine, a cause of all men to err that drink it. And the wine that we have drunk in this society is by America. It's not talking about Merlot. It's talking about the spirit of divination and sorcery that has captivated the minds, which we think when we look at this society is the light. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 17. And I'm going to start at verse 4. It says, and the woman was arrayed in purple. Purple are what kings wear. Majesty, strength. You understand? Nobles, princes. So she's high up wearing purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. If you got ears to hear, those are all of the spoils of war. Right? Yes, saying she's beautiful and the light is captivating, but spiritually to be arrayed in those things, purple is hard to find, especially in the ancient world. To be decked with gold, that's what kings wear. Precious stones, where are you finding these stones at? You damn sure didn't buy them. You didn't mine for them. These are the spoils of war that captivates America to be high up as this beast, this renowned beast of the earth, having a golden cup in her hand. Now your hand represents strength, power, dominion. You understand? Dominance. And for it to be a golden cup, see, Nebuchadnezzar, you understand, when you read, Daniel the 5th chapter, you don't have to get it. His son, you actually going into it. They made, let's not talk about it. Let's get it. These what kings drink out of. Princes drink out of. This is a big deal the way America's personified in the Bible. It's the book of Daniel, chapter 5. And I'm going to start at verse number 3. Right? Let's start at 2. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring, right, the golden and silver vessels, which his father Nebuchadnezzar, right, had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem. So those are spoils of war. Did that ancient smith beat down, scolded, melted down, and actually make those golden cups? No. Where did they get those from? From the spoils of war and stealing and robbing and raping and pillaging, man. So how they got those things was by force. When you look at America, that's personified in the Bible, spiritually, she's decked with these things, but where did she get it? When this land was so-called founded and came upon, right there, settlers, and I don't want to jump the gun, couldn't even survive on this land. So everything that was gotten on this land to deck her up was through rape, rob, and murder. It says that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessel that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, man. And where that gold spiritually? The Lord said, how is the gold have dimmed, man? We've been murdered. We've been melted down in the society. It says, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes and his wives and his concubines drank in them. So they make mirth and gladness right off of death, murder, pillage, and robbery. This is Revelation chapter 17 and verse number 4 again from the top. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, colored and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations. Those abominations are drunkenness, robbery, policies, murder, unjust dealings, right? Laws being passed, right? All type of pedophilia, sodomy, everything they push in this society to overthrow the elect is nothing but a stumbling block. It says, and filthiness of her fornication. So America pushes you and forces you to lay down with her. And upon her forehead is her mind. Your forehead is what you think. It's your heart. Was a name written, Mystery, Babylon, the great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. So you want to think where everybody has been polluted, it's by America's wine. That's why the Lord said through the Spirit, right, that wine is exceedingly strong. It causeth all men to err that drink it. It maketh the mind of the king and the fatherless child, right, to be all one. And that's madness, because the king's matters need to be on laws. They need to be on governance. The fatherless child need to be taken care of. Their minds have no business to be all one, to think the same things. So that's confusion. And the bondman and the free man of the poor man of the rich, it turneth also every thought into jollity. And that's what's going to go on during the fourth. People are going to have fun. They're going to crack beers. They're going to get drunk. They're going to hop in the pool, right? They're going to open up their beers, right? They're going to go on a grill. They're going to have a good time. They're going to invite all their family members over. They're going to forget what actually this day is about, man. This day isn't about the freedom of America as they personify it, man. This day for the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you was in slavery. Not only were you in slavery, but they put freedom for all so proudly in your face. Push it at job, push it at work. We don't get any days off. They push this in your face, their freedom, right, of their colonies being broken off from the British. And it turns every thought, like it says, into jollity and mirth, so that a man remembereth neither sorrow nor death. And that's exactly what goes on in America, man. You don't even forget. You don't even remember why you're here. Every day you walk on concrete. Every day you see stoplights. Every day you see lights and madness, and you smell motor oil, and you're in America. This has nothing to do with where you from. The grass they used to grow, man, the ancient wells, the cattle that we can't even taste. That's not even in this land, man. There's certain things are far off that we enjoyed through the spirit in the ancient world. We're far away from our home. And it's got to hurt you, man. And if it doesn't hurt you when you're getting comfortable in America, you have to examine whether you're in this truth or not. See, the elect are always going to want to be delivered. They're going to always cry out in the land of their captivity. They're going to hate the abominations thereof. Last time I read, the Lord said, set a mark on those that sigh and cry for the abominations thereof. Man, everybody else was slain with the sword by the angel. Think if that was you right now on the 4th of July. What if the Lord came back like a thief in the night, man? Where's your heart in this society? How tied in are you mentally and spiritually to America, man? And the things that it has to offer you, the gifts that blind you, the madness and sorcery that draws you into it, like an ox to the slaughter. Let me get this quick precept and we're going to dive straight into it. Let's go to Psalm chapter 137. That's what the Lord said. Verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion, man. And spiritually, we're in Babylon. And here you have to weep when you remember the things aforetime, huh? So it would be beautiful to see eating and drinking and kings and majesty and Solomon's porch and the temple, right? It would be beautiful to see all the portions of land Joshua divvied out and all of the men of the Lord divvied out to all their possessions of the tribes. It would be beautiful to witness these things. We hanged our harps upon the willows. Now the willow is the willow tree, which weeps. Our harps are full of gladness and mirth. We hung that up once we entered into the land of our captivity. Not that you can't defraud yourself a good day, but if your mind is full of harping, mirth, and gladness in the land of your oppressors, you're enjoying their reign. You're enjoying the fruit of the blood that was shed so that they could build up their empires and their kings could flourish. It says, in the midst thereof, for there they carried us away captive, required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing, right, to us one of the songs of Zion. How should we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? Oh, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy, right? That's what the Lord said, man. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be. So this whole song is written about what? Being in misery, weeping, not enjoying anything in this land. And how shall we until we get back to Jerusalem? The Lord said, through the elect in the spirit, O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed, happy shall he be. So you're not going to be happy in Babylon until you reward them as that has rewarded us. That's what the Lord said. So if your spirit is in mirth, you're drunk, you're enjoying it, you have to consider whether this applies to you or not, man. Because I get joy seeing my people rise up, seeing the miracles of the Most High, hearing about prophecy, hearing about the end of the days, man. Destruction. I get in mirth over that, man. It's beautiful to my ears. It says, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dash thy little ones against the stone. That's what the Lord said. Let me dive straight into it. 4th of July, for brothers that may not know. A lot of brothers are just coming into this truth. They're coming out of the world, and this world doesn't teach you to be studious, doesn't teach you to look things up. And a lot of history, which is in America, links up with the Bible. Policies link up with the Bible, right? Their laws link up with the Bible. Wars that they have wrought, they link up in the Bible. Their beginning and end links up in the Bible. Especially in the last days, you want to dive into history. It says the 4th of July, or Independence Day, commemorates the Second Continental Congress adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, making the American colonies separation from Great Britain. So you had 13 American colonies, right, that separated from Great Britain. And I'm going to dive into all that history, how they got there, what were they doing there, how they expanded. This is history we didn't know because we need to know the beginning of how America was formed. You don't want to just jump to Revelation, the 17th chapter, open it up and read about the wickedness of the great whore, and then you just leave it there. Everything has a beginning, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of, let's go to Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 26, and I start at verse 10, right? It says, I'm going to start at 9. With my soul have I desired thee in the night. This is the nighttime where spiritual wickedness is at an all-time high. We desire the Lord when we're getting ruled over in the night. Yea, with my spirit within me will I seek thee early. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. That's how you know that this world is ran by the elites. They're ran by the wicked. It says, for when thy judgments are in the earth. Are the judgments in the earth, man? Is anybody being put to death for the wickedness they wrought in this society? Or are they passing bills and marching for sodomy? It says, let favor be shewed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. You can have mercy on all the wicked of the earth, man. You could teach them the laws, you can help them, but they have to be extinct. In the land of uprightness will he deal unjustly and will not behold the majesty of the Lord. So it's nothing you could do but burn this place, man. There's no help that could be wrought or given to America or these other nations, really, that the judgment of the Lord will be stayed, right? Now, let me get this real fast. I'm going to jump the gun. The American Revolutionary, right? War, an ideology and politic rebellion, right, through which 13 of Great Britain's North American colonies cast off impartial rule, sparked by resistance to taxation without representation. So they say, you know what? We're getting taxed, and they were getting taxed by the protection of the war, by Britain. And we know that Britain comes out of Rome, Britannia. So really everything comes out of the Roman Empire, right? You have the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, the revised Roman Empire. And out of that, you have Britannia as they sprawled, right? That new world. And out of Britannia, you have Britain, and out of Britain, you have America. So what America is the revised Roman Empire and does come out of the Roman Empire. The conflict evolved into global war that established the sovereignty of the United States of America. So they wanted their freedom. They wanted all. They wanted out. And when you actually look at it, the American flag, let me get this real fast. You have the so-called American flag, which you will have 13 of the colonies, and you will have the 50 states. Red, white, and blue is the spirit, right, of Britain. Through their conquering rule, right, to be freed. You have something called the Boston Tea Party. Now, I want to dive into this real fast. The Boston Tea Party was a political protest on December 16th, 1773, where the Sons of Liberty, right, boarded British ships in Boston Harbor and dumped 342 chests of East Indian Company tea into the water. The iconic act, right, of defiance against taxation without representation. So it was getting so out of hand that they loaded a ship, they dived on a ship, and they started throwing out all of this tea. Now, why this was so detrimental to our people, why this has anything to do with us, is because when you go into history, they actually dressed up the Americans. They dressed up like Native Americans. They had blackface on. They put on a costume of of feathers, fringes, and they dripped themselves in Israelite apparel, acted as if they were Native Americans, boarded the ship like hooligans, vanished, pillaged, and overthrew all of that to make it seem like it was our people that did this, so that the retaliation would kill us and not them. When you're actually going into this history. Let me see if I can pull that up. Boston Tea Party dress up like Indians. On December 16th, 1773, the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians to conceal their identities, right? Those are cowards. So those cowards dressed up, right, like the Israelites to disguise themselves while committing treason by destroying East Indian Company. So we actually going into it. A lot of the American men during that time, during the 13 colonies, they thought it was treason and rebellion and sedition to go against Britain because Britain was overruled. So there was a split in the division between their own people to the point where they had murders. I think they had something called the Massachusetts killings or something to that extent. Let me see if I can pull that up. If I can't, that's okay. What is it? Killings, massacre, the Massachusetts massacres, man. The Massachusetts massacre almost certainly refers to the Boston massacre, right? A pivotal historical event that took place on March 5th, right, 1770. On that evening, a violent confrontation occurred on King Street, now State Street, in the Boston between a crowd of angry colonists and a squad of British soldiers, man. So all hell was breaking loose. They really wanted their independence to the point where they disguised themselves. They acted like us. They threw tea off of ships and invaded it, right? And stole and burned merchandise. They went through burning the streets when you go into the history. Not only that, but they literally armed themselves and started smoking people in the streets because they were so angry, man. So to be on that land during that time was very violent. So America's beginning is in blood. It's the blood of the Native Americans. It's the blood of the British. It's the blood of the French. It's the blood of the Spanish. It's the blood of their own people, man. And it's the blood of the Quasi War. And it's the blood of the Mexican wars, man. Right? When you actually going into that history. That I believe the Spanish had, which was the lower part of America. The French had the territory above, while America had that 13, right, which was on the right side, right at the bottom of what the map looks like as America. So they were smoking people, they were killing people. They said this incident tensions have been boiling for months due to British military occupation of Boston, unpopular taxation policies. And when people are getting taxed, they don't like that, man. Let right now your water bill go up to $800. Let right now your light bill right now go up to $300, $400, $500. Let a biscuit at the store, right, what used to cost $6.99 or whatever the case may be for a roll, $4.99. Let that go up to $29.99 and see if people don't get antsy or hell start breaking loose and people start looting and robbing. Said a mob of 300 to 400 civilians surrounded a British sentry, verbally harassing him and throwing snowballs, rocks, debris. Captain Thomas, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but all hell start breaking loose. They start killing and destroying, and massacre of blood was all in those streets of hundreds of people. Right, going back to it, it says, most importantly, disguised, right, symbolizes their shift from British subjects to independent Americans, right? That's not what that means, right? That disguise was that when they retaliated, they would kill innocent men, women, and children. When you actually going into it, right? Now, going back to it, it says the Boston Tea Party, right? Political protest, December 16th, 1773, where the Sons of Liberty boarded British ships in Boston Harbor and dumped, right, 342 chests of East Indian Company tea into the water. The iconic act of defiance against taxation without representation immediately sparked the American Revolution. That's when it kicked off. That's when it sprawled out of control to military had to get involved. And it became a civil out war. And now the military got involved. Now, for brothers that don't know what the First Continental Congress is, this is what helped pass the Declaration, right, of Independence. We'll read this real fast. The First Continental Congress was a meeting of delegates of the 12 of 13 colonies. Now they had the meeting on their own because there wasn't a representation of the British when they had their meetings in their Congress, and they felt betrayed and left out. Not only that, but they were getting taxed above means. Not only that, they didn't have the strong military like the British did. It says Georgia did not attend, held from September 5th to October 26, 1774, at the Carpenters Hall in Philadelphia, at the beginning of the American Revolution. The meeting was organized by the delegates just after the British Navy implemented a blockade of Boston Harbor, and the Parliament of Great Britain passed a punitive, intolerable act in response to the Boston Tea Party. That's what kicked it off. And this was extremely important because the American Revolutionary War is in the Bible. When you dive into Daniel, the 7th chapter, 7 and verse 20 all the way down, you had 3 which rose up against the little horn. When you dive into that history, which is extremely important, right? You got the French right around 1798, right to around 1800. You had the Spanish War, it's around 1898. You had the American Revolutionary War, right, around 1775 to around 1783. Right, you had the War of 1812. Those were pivotal as all hell started to break loose in America. Now, again, this land is founded with bloodshed, murder of the innocents. It wasn't given to them as a lot. See, our people were given land. And when we were given land by the Most High gave us that land. Now, somebody may say, well, the Israelites, they got the land too by stealing, or they run up in the land and they murder people out. Well, first and foremost, they should have never been in there because the promise to Abraham was from the beginning. So while we had to take them out of that land by force, it already belonged to us by the right of the Most High. This land did not belong unto the so-called white man. Let me get this real fast. Let's go to Genesis chapter 35 before we dive into this thing. Genesis 36, that's what I want. This is Genesis chapter 36 and verse 1. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. So the Lord gave the generations of Esau, and where was Esau's dwelling? Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. So the Most High gave Esau his portion in his land. He gave him Mount Seir. Mount Seir was the mountains, destitute of life, health, vegetation, and anything that could spur and prosper a fertilization in that land. He gave him the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia. Right, he gave him the middle of the abyss, the middle of nowhere. Also under the brambles they brayed, man, in the book of Job, the 30th chapter. So their beginning was really to be destitute. And the Most High said, by thy sword thou shalt live. So anything that they have conquered and possessed in this earth is only obtained by the sword. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 27. This is Genesis chapter 37, and I'm going to start at verse number 37. I mean, this whole thing is fire. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, right? And with corn, with wine, and have sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing? My father, bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So you may read this and feel like, oh, well, maybe Isaac should have blessed him. Maybe he should have did this. No, he trampled underfoot the blessing. When somebody, like you got these little YouTubers, man, they'll go in a grocery store and they'll, I'm hungry. Can I get something to eat? Can I get something to eat? Nah, I don't got no money. Then they'll turn to somebody else. Can I get something to eat? They give them $5. Then the other person turn around and give them $1,000 or something. Huh? Oh, I just wanted to see if he was a good guy. And then a person come back after seeing all of the prosperity of that person that they have got, the wealth they have got, come back and bow, cry, act like they need that and they were really sincere and they had a bad day. You got to peep the spirit, man. Everybody not sincere. And this is not a sincere account of crying. A sincere account of crying from the very beginning, you would have never blew your blessing, man. You blew it on damn lentils and pottage. You despised the Most High from the very beginning, being Cain, man. Not bringing up a righteous sacrifice. It says, and Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, man. And the hell with this earth. And the fatness thereof of this earth, man. Because the fatness of this earth he will only obtain by the sword. I'd rather have my dwelling be in the heavens. My dwelling to be with the Most High. To be able to inquire of the Lord. See, Esau can't inquire with the Lord. These Philistines, these Egyptians, right? These other nations, they have wizards, sorcerers, witches, warlocks. They use divination. They conjure up spirits. They use incense, blood, sacrifices. They draw sonograms. They deal with dark magic, man. That's how they get in tune with finding the consolation in a way and direction. We don't have to do that, man. The Lord said every nation have not counsel. Let me get this quick precept real fast. Let's go to Tobit. All right. It's the book of Tobit, right? Chapter 4. And I want to start, and I mean, this whole thing is fire. I want to start at verse, I'm going to start at 18, right? And it reads, ask counsel of all that are wise, and despise not any counsel that is profitable, right? So he said, look, man, don't despise anything that's profitable unto you. It says, bless the Lord thy God always, and desire of him that thy ways may be directed, and all thy paths and counsels may prosper. So the only way we're directed is by the hand of the Most High. That's how we are able to move. But they move by crooked ways, evil devices, witchcraft, wickedness, right? So going back to the book of Genesis, right? So Genesis chapter 27 and verse 40. And by thy sword thou shalt live. So his sword represents what? His military, his strength, his teeth of iron, and shall serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Right? Let me go back to it. The Continental Congress, right? Again, is where they gathered together on September 5th or 1774. That's when it was established for their government to proclaim meetings after, right, all hell broke loose, where they went to war after the spoil of the Boston Tea Party. Now, what's spiritual is that you have President John Adams. He died the same day as Thomas Jefferson. Now, Thomas Jefferson helped push, right, the Declaration of Independence. Let's pull this up. And why is this pivotal, and what does this have to do with anything? Right? Let me get this real fast. Thomas Jefferson. 4th of July. Thomas Jefferson was the principal author of the Declaration of Independence and shares an unprecedented historical legacy with the 4th, right, of July holiday. He established the first White House 4th of July separation. So like a celebration. And he was a slave owner. Now, the Most High had him die on July 4th. So the Most High get down and the Most High show his hand. Out of all days for him to die, let me pull this up real fast. The Lord killed this man. When did Thomas Jefferson, Shalaki, bear with me. When did Thomas Jefferson die? Thomas Jefferson died on July 4th, 1826, at the age of 83. So the Most High killed this man, murdered him, overthrew him and all of his legacy, and proclaimed his death on the very day of their so-called independence, showing you that the Most High's hand is against America. He's against your independence, your celebrations. He's against all of those things. The Most High is not pleased with the wicked. Let me get this quick precept. It's the mighty book of Psalms. Let's go to Psalm chapter 12. Psalm chapter 12 in verse number 8. The wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. So when you have men like George Washington, you have men like Thomas Jefferson, you have men like Thomas Adams, you have all of these devils, right, that are exalted. The Lord said the wicked walk on every side. You're going to have vile laws. You're going to have declarations of independence. You're going to have these things that solely go against the Most High's commandments. The wicked walk on every side. The military, your policies, your police, your government, when the vilest men are exalted. And he's the vilest man. Who else died on that day? John Adams. John Adams, right? The second president of the United States. He also died, right, on July 4th, man. It was a third president. I forgot his name. He died on July 4th, man. So don't be surprised if Trump or any of these other devils, if we continue to be here, die on July 4th. Out of all days to die, the Lord is showing you these same men that have a hand in his wickedness and witchcraft are dying on this day. That's spiritual, man. The Most High is against that. Now look at this. John Adams was the driving force behind the push of American independence. For in the Continental Congress, those 13 right colonies, and served on the committee of 5 and drafted the Declaration. And where did he die, man? He notably convinced Thomas Jefferson to write the document and was its most fierce and eloquent defender during the congressional debates, man. So they was in there going off, pushing for the independence and writing up laws, which is spiritual. Now, I don't know if I got this pulled up or not. I don't want to jump the gun. I got a lot to go into, right? John Adams died, right, the 4th of July, 1826. Passed away at his home in Quincy, Massachusetts at the age of 90. And Massachusetts is where the Plymouth men and the settlers came, right? And they came in, which was one of the second settlers that they opened up when they were coming around that region, when they were so-called discovering new land. Let me get this real fast. You got the join or die flag. Look at this. If anybody know anything about this flag, let me see if I can find old American flag. Old American, or first American flag. First American flag. Let's see if I can pull this up. They might not. Let me see. American flag with snake. And why would you want a snake as your flag? Don't tread on me. Meaning don't come on my land. That's what that means, man. Don't tread on me is not a nice way to say, oh, pardon me, excuse me. Right? Don't tread on me means don't step foot on this land. That's exactly what that means. Or I'm going to bite you. Right, look at this. The American flag with a snake is officially known as the Gadsden flag. It features a yellow field with a coiled alert timber rattlesnake. And the motto, right, don't tread on me. Who designed it? It doesn't matter. He's going to go into slavery. Historical meaning. It served as an early model flag for the Continental Marines. So they're American military. If you come on this land, when we're establishing it, I'm going to kill you. That's the mind frame that they have of war. Because by his sword he shall live. The Lord said they covered fields, man. Let me get this quick precept in the book of Micah. Right? Let me get this quick precept in Micah, the 2nd chapter. Right? Let's go to the mighty book of Micah. It's the book of Micah, chapter 2, and I want to start at verse number 1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity. Devising iniquity is a thought process to come up with something to overthrow and kill people, overthrow lands, rape, devise wicked laws, and work evil upon their beds. When morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Who's having the earth in their dominion and power right now? Your so-called white man. Your bed is a place of thinking and comfortability. That's what a bed represents. Let me get that in the book of Job. Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 7. Because a bed is supposed to be comfort. You're supposed to get sleep on a bed. It's the book of Job, chapter 7, and verse 13. When I say my bed shall comfort me, my couch shall ease my complaint. That's a place where Jake, he kick off. Right? Laboring is sweet, right? Sleep is, I know I'm, let me get it right. Sleep, labor is sweet. Let me get this real fast. Ecclesiastes 5 and 12. The sleep of a laboring man is sweet. That's what I wanted, right? So the bed is supposed to be a place where you done worked all day, you could finally relax, and you could just kick back, man, right? But to the wicked, it's a place of pondering, a place of thinking, a place to devise and come up with plans and strategies to overthrow people, man. You would think as rich as Bill Gates is, that he would be somewhere on a damn island, riding a jet ski with 15 women, right? Getting drunk, doing whatever he wants to do. But somehow he's opening up farms. He's in science. None of that has anything to do with computers, man. You have taken your riches of this earth, but you cannot stay out of mischief. It says, when I say my bed shall comfort me, my couch shall ease my complaint. So that's what's supposed to happen, right? It says they covet fields and take them by violence. And in the law, you can't remove your neighbor's landmark. Your landmark is your portion of land, which was given to you by your fathers, which is an evident portion by the Most High. So Ephraim has this amount. You understand? He has this amount. Simeon has this amount. If Simeon and Judah start playing with their land and their fields, all hell will break loose. Look at let me see, Israel map of lands, portion, territory. If I can pull this up real fast. Let me see. Time of Joshua. Right, you got Judah and you got Simeon. They right next door. Now, if Simeon's land started to get pushed, or Judah started to push, all hell could break loose. What about Gad and Reuben? What about Dan and Ephraim? What about Zebulun and Issachar? So you can't push an ancient landmark back. It says they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. So they take away the portion that was given to you by the Most High. They rape, rob, and afflict, and they're detrimental. So going back to this flag, again, that snake was the beginning of the American flag. The Join or Die flag features a segment, rattled snake symboling the division, like the divided American colonies. Famously designed by Benjamin Franklin in 1754, originally published in Pennsylvania, right, Gersonet, and urged colony unity against the French and Native Americans, and later became a powerful rattling cry during the American Revolution. So again, they're coming together. But what do they come together for? For war. When we come together, it's peace. You come together at a cookout, it's peaceful, man, for the most part. You go visit your family, people have family, what do they call them? Cookouts and family reunions, and everybody gathers together. It's peaceful. You see your peoples, man. The Lord said, gather together. O nation not desire in the last days. We about to have camp. Most High willing this weekend on the 4th, man. and prophesied the destruction of you other nations, and chiefly Babylon the Great. And we're coming together. But when they come together, it's for war. And they're the snake, which is filled with deception and confusion, and wickedness and madness. Now, check this out. On the 4th of July, commemorates the Continental Congress's adoption of the Declaration of Independence in 1776, serving political ties with Great Britain. Although the Revolutionary War had already begun in 1775 and active fighting continued into 1783, this document publicly announced America's birth as a sovereign nation to the world. So that's the beginning, so-called, of America. So again, if you're thinking about getting drunk, enjoying yourself, and getting off on this, this is the birth of your chief enemy, man. This is the birth of the most wickedest place on the earth. The Lord said in the book of Revelation, the 18th chapter, let me get this quick precept. Let's go to Revelation chapter 18. It's Revelation chapter 18 and verse 2. It says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils. So if you're in America, this is the habitation, meaning the chief dwelling of all unclean spirits. Every unclean spirit you could think of dwells in America, man. You have different parts of the islands. They drive away homosexuality. They beat you with a stick. They burn you. They'll kill you. These Arabs, they cut your tongue out. You do certain things. They have ancient customs. A lot of these different nations to the four corners of the earth, they hold true to some things you should not be doing. They'll cut your hand off. But America embraces wickedness. It embraces sin. It embraces madness and folly, man. When you go to the book of Tobit, let's go to Tobit chapter 8, right? In verse number 3. Which smelled, when the evil spirit had smelled, he fled into the uttermost parts of Egypt. So Asmodeus is dwelling as we speak in Egypt, man. This is spiritual Egypt. And he's dwelling right here, going to and fro to cause division. Going to and fro to break up peace, to murder. When you read this book, I'm sure brothers have, and if you haven't, dive into it, most are willing. That spirit was causing division and death, man. Hindrance. So that spirit is in Egypt as we speak. Let me go back to it. Now, you have the Declaration, right, of Independence. Right? I may hold this right here and come back to this. But the 13 colonies existed because Great Britain settled them, right, habitarily, Salakia for the pronunciation, over a century, from Virginia in 1607 to Georgia in 1732. Each of these settlements was founded by different companies, religious groups, and royalty guarantees, resulting in 13 distinctive policy entries rather than one massive colony. So what this means is it was formed off of confusion. That's where you have a lot of your slave masters and a lot of in slavery, Baptist, Pentecostal, all of these different forms of religion. Their groups are coming out with the 13 distincts, right? They had different policies. That's why you have so many policies under America. Judicial branch, you have so many branches of government because it's divided from its very beginning. It says establish these 13 individual colonies was driven by a few main factors. Economic ventures. So they split through economic ventures because when you actually go into it, a lot of the colonies, right, pushed up westward, which was during French's land, where they had war back and forth as they tried to expand, as there were over, a million in those 13 colonies. As it starts to grow, when you dive into history, they started to push up to conquer more land, and they started to do that. I believe that was under, who was that under? Was it under, let's see, pushed land to French. I don't even know if this is gonna come up. Let me see this real quick. Actually, the young George Washington was trying to claim land from the French, right, for British rather than give it away. In 1753, the Virginia colony governor sent 21-year-old Major Washington to the Ohio River Valley, right, to deliver an ultimatum demanding the French, right? Who the hell are you to demand any war, any land, man? It's not yours. That's the spirit of these devils. They got to take something. He's 21 years old, man. Barely got some hair on his face. Sitting up there on a horse or a carriage or whatever they was riding. They sneaking, they smelling, they scratching, they itching. They have to have land. They have to have rulership. They have to conquer, man. What the hell are you doing on a ship thinking of the new world? That'd be scary as hell to get on a ship where you don't even know where you're going to go. Unless it's through the faith of the Most High and you're on a mission. But just to conquer because you smell land and you feel like you need to touch it and have it. It says the French refused, leading, right, to skirmish that started the French and Indian War. So the French and Indian War, again, was started off of what? Off of land. Like I was going into, they wanted to expand those 13 colonies because it started to get jammed up. Once they started to get jammed up, they started pushing and they started to try to claim more land. And as they started to claim more land, they ran into the French, which you have the French-Indian War. So you have religious freedoms, economic ventures, administrative challenges. These are just some things that they say, right, were conflicts during that time. Let me dive to this. You have something also called the Louisiana Purchase. The Louisiana Purchase was 1803 land deal where the United States acquired roughly 828,000 square miles of territory from France, right, for 15 million. And they did do that. They went to war for land, they sold land, and they bartered for land between so-called the Native Americans and the French as they started to span and sprawl. When you're going into this, by paying roughly 3 cents an acre, the U.S. doubled its size, securing control of the Mississippi River and launching westward. And this was important. Why they did that? Because you have the Chesapeake Bay. Like I said, I don't want to go through a rabbit hole of all this history, but they wanted that so it could be more lucrative for taxes and travel as they did these things, right? So like a Mississippi River, that's what I meant. It said the massive translation by transaction included land spreading from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains and from the Gulf of Mexico to the Caribbean border. Eventually, all the parts of the 15 states were carved from this territory. And you had the Spanish that conquered, the islands, right? And as they were conquering the islands, they started to come up to the United States, which was parts of Mexico. Then you will have war, Spanish-American War, right? And it's all over land. It's all fighting, you understand, not for freedom, not for peace, not for justice, not for equity, not for anything spiritual, but fighting over land. Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of Psalm chapter 140. Psalm chapter 140, and I want to start at verse 11. Let not an evil speaker be established in the earth. An evil speaker does what? They form laws. They write with the stroke of the pen. They create declarations, which they themselves don't honor. And I want to touch on that, man. Let me get that real fast. Now, this is the Star Spangled Banner. For brothers that know about the Star Spangled Banner, you know about the lyrics of the Star Spangled Banner. And a lot of times, the Super Bowl, NBA playoffs, or certain events, they'll have one of your favorite singers, man. And they'll come out and they'll sing this. Now, this is sung for the commemoration of the war that was wrought, right, of British and America. And so-called, the writer saw a flag in the midst of war flying in the air. And as he seen it flying in the air, it gave him hope that they would win the war. Even when all else failed and people were shooting, stabbing, and killing, the flag somehow stayed in the air as it flew, which is madness. But they don't tell you the true lyrics of the Star Spangled Banner. And I want to read them. It says, "Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?" And that's wicked in itself because Yahweh Shah is the light. When a day breaks, right, let me get this quick precept. Let's go to Song of Solomon, chapter 2. Verse 17. "Until the day break and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be like a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of Bethel." So when the day break, you understand, the light is out in the spirit. So, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? So as you're dawning into the light, that light's supposed to represent the Lord coming out of the land of darkness. "So proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night fight. Oh, the ramparts we watch, right, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare and the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there." So as war was going on, they're saying this is the war against the British. And that's how proud they are of winning this war, man, and conquering this land, that they have written it up. "Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave?" Now, a banner is used for war. Like the Lord said in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, right? We got to lift up the banner on high. A banner is an old, ancient proclamation that war is on the rise and we're coming. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 2. "Lift ye up the banner upon the high mountain." So when that banner is lifted up, wartime. "Exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles," man. That you may wake these people up. It says, "Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave." Now, so-called black man wasn't free till around what, 1865 or so. When was the slaves free? 1863, right? Emancipation of Proclamation, which officially took effect on January 1, 1863, freeing millions of enslaved people in Confederate states. Now, hold on. We're going to touch on this because it's about to get real wicked when you keep going into this history. Because during the time of America's birth, you had, I ain't going to jump the gun. I'm going to dive into that. I'm going to stay on the topic. It says, "Oh, land of the free." So it's not the land of the free. This is called hypocrisy at its highest level. 1775 has nothing to do with 1863, man. It says, "On the shore, dimly seen through the mist of the deep, where the foes hotly host and dread silence repost, what is that which that breeze or the towering steep? It is filthiness blows, half concealed, half disclosed. Now it catches the gleam of the morning's first beam. In full glory reflects now, shines in the stream. Tits the star-spangled banner. Oh, long may it wave of the land of the free, the home of the brave." Now, it was trickled down and made smaller, but nevertheless, it was really lengthy when you dive into the beginning of it. I believe Francis Scott Key wrote this. It says, "And where it is the band so vauntly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home and country should leave us no more. Their blood was washed out, their foul footsteps pollution." This sounds like madness, man. The Lord said, let me get this quick precept. And, I don't know if y'all went to school where I went to school, but they used to make you say the Star Spangled Banner. They used to make say, "I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. That's all I can remember. To something which it stands, something. Let me see. Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance is a promise of loyalty to the United States. That's why one of the laws that are going to condemn us is treason, which goes against the Americans' laws, their customs, their policy, their religion, how they speak, what they represent, their image, everything of the beast. We're going to go against it. And people actually pledge to this United States. Look at this. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, invincible, with liberty and justice for all. And that's utter hypocrisy. Let me dive back to it. No refuge could save the hireling and slave, man. It says no, that's in the Star Spangled Banner. So the same time where people are proclaiming liberty and justice for all, you're pledging to the society. You have on red, white, blue. You're turned up. You're drunk. You're enjoying. You're waving back and forth with your co-workers. You're in the 4th of July spirit. You got a suit on. You cooning out. They literally say no refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave, man. So they proclaim in their constitution that nobody can save you, man. Last time I read, let's go to Deuteronomy. Let's go to the classic, man. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. It's the last time I read. It's Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. This goes into being redeemed. And they literally put it in their constitution that nobody could save you. Nobody's coming for you. The Lord even put that in. No man could get you out of this, man. But the Heavenly Father through his son Yahushua. And the Star-Spangled Banner and trumpet doeth wave, O the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thus be it ever, when free men shall stand between their love home and the war's desolation, blissed with victory and peace, may it heavenly rescue land, praise the power that have made and preserved us a nation. What power is that? What power? Praise the power. What power is that? It's Satan, man. Let's go to the book. There's so many, man. It's everywhere in the Bible. You know, pick. Let's go to Habakkuk, man. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1, in verse number 16. Therefore, they sacrifice unto their net. So the very thing you capture people with, you lie to people with, betray people with, and snatch away their understanding, snatch away their God, snatch away there's freedom of speech, man. How you gonna say it's freedom of speech, but yet you can't speak freely the truth? Therefore, they sacrifice unto their net, meaning what? Blood sacrifices, vows, bowing, right? All these different things they do to their gods on the left-hand side. Now, ancient Babylon, they had their gods. I did a Deuteronomy 28 breakdown, and I really went into the gods of Babylon. You know, if you haven't seen that, most I really could check it out. You got gods of Egypt, right? You have many gods. You have the gods of the Egyptians, right? You have many gods, man. You got the gods of the Philistines, man. Lord spoke about Dagon and certain things like these idols, man. You got I believe when you go to, what is that? Isaiah 46. The Lord speak about these gods in the Bible, man. These false gods. Bow, it's like a Baal boweth down, man. So the Lord said these false idols, these false gods, they bow. Nebo stoopeth. Their idols were upon the beast and upon the cattle. Your cartridges were heavy loading. They are a burden to the weary beast. So the Lord said, look, Baal, like you got Baal and the dragon. right? When you read the Apocrypha, you got Nebo. These were ancient false gods that people reverence, man. You got the Christmas tree, Nimrod, the stump, all of these things, they put fear in people's hearts. You had a lot of false gods. But then you have the chief one that they sacrificed to, Baal. That was one of the chief deities and demons, which was the bull, which represent the horns. Right? It says, therefore they sacrifice unto their net and burn incense unto their drag, because by them their portion is fat. So they're sacrificing to receive things, and their meat plenteous. Should they therefore empty their nets? You think they're going to let go the slaves? Do you think they're going to let go? It's already written, no man's going to save you. Nobody coming to get the hireling or pay the hireling or the slave, and not spare continually to slay the nations, man. And that's what they do. They slay the nations continually. Then conquer. We must win our cause. It is. So like a cause, it is just. And this be our motto. And God is our trust, man. What God is that? Let's go to 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter. Because they're right. In God do they trust, but what God? What God? There be many gods. It's 2 Corinthians chapter 4 in verse number 3. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. So this gospel is the truth. If it be hid to individuals like your family, your mother, your father, it could be even hid from your wife or your husband. They're lost. Their mind isn't to the Most High. They weren't upright. The Most High never chose them. In whom the God of this world have blinded the minds of them which believe not. See, there's a God of this world. The Lord said, let me get this quick precept. Right? This is the book of, let me get John chapter 18 and 36 real quick. John chapter 18, right, real fast, in verse, right, 36. Yahweh answered, my kingdom is not of this world. So if he's not the God of this world, and his kingdom is not of this world, who's the God of this world? Satan is the God of this world. You have two great kingdoms on a spiritual level. You have the kingdom to come, and you have the kingdom that's established now. The kingdom that's established now, Satan is a prince. I mean, you go into that word prince, that word in the Hebrew, and when you go into the Greek, that word is really noble, king. So you have a prince, which is likened to a king. A prince is right under a king, and he's the prince of this world. So all dominion, all power, and really all things go into him on the left-hand side. That's why the Lord said, let me get this real fast. Now, this is on the left-hand side. In the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, that's why the Lord said, start at verse 24. Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom of God even to the Father. Why he has to deliver up the kingdom? Because he has to take down all of these other kingdoms. That's why he has a crown, King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He's coming to conquer, right? It says, when he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power. So there's power and authority and rule given by the Most High to Satan over this world. So yes, he's the God of this world. On the left-hand side, man. And if you serve Satan, right, you can get things, right, on the left-hand side. In whom the God of this world have blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Yahweh, who is the image of God, should shine unto them, right? So in God is our trust. You already know what God they serve. And the star-spangled banner in triumph shall wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Right, let's dive into it. American lawyer and poet Francis Scott Key wrote the lyrics to Star Spangled Banner on September 14th, 1814. he penned the poem originally titled Defense of Fort, right, Henry, after witnessing the British, right, bombardment of Fort Henry in Baltimore during the War of 1812. Like I said, you had the two wars. The earlier war, right, around 1775, and then you had the War of 1812, right, by Francis Scott Key. You also have another, right, president. We done dived into all two presidents. Now we're going into, I believe, a third. Now maybe this is the second. I'm subject to be corrected. But this is James Monroe. I believe, what was he, the second president? I could be wrong. Right? It's the last thing I'm studying. Let me look this up. The second president. The fifth president. So the second president, who was the second? Second president, John Adams. Yeah, that devil died on the 4th of July, too. So you got all these devils down on the 4th of July, man. That's set up by the Most High. It says James Monroe died on Independence Day. So you got 3 devils dying on this day, showing you the importance of how the Most High is slaying the wicked on their celebration day. It says in New York City, the 73-year-old 5th U.S. president passed away from a combination of heart failure. So check that out, man. While everybody turning up, he's sitting up there catching hell and his heart turning against him, right? It says prior to his death, Monroe serves a busy career, right? All praise to the Most High, the Lord slayed him. You have something also called the Liberty Bell. Now, these are pivotal things I'm touching on of American history, and they have something called the Liberty Bell. Now, they will ring the Liberty Bell, which they don't ring anymore because it was cracked, and it hasn't been rung in hundreds of years, if I'm not mistaken. And they ring this bell, and they will ring it 13 times, and they will ring it for the liberty of the 13 colony states from the British. Now, what does that sound like? That's mocking the year of Jubilee, where we sound the trumpet and everybody's free from their labors. So they're getting the concept of the bell being rung throughout all the land and everybody knowing they're free from the concept of Leviticus 25, whether you have ears to hear to see that. Let's go to the book of Leviticus, how it parallelly lines up. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 25. Let's go to Leviticus chapter, I'm going to start at 9. Right? It says, then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound. Now, let's look that up. Let's look that up. Let's go into this word. Now, the word Jubilee means what? Alarm, signal, sound of tempest. So the word Jubilee literally means to sound. Now, we sound the shofar, right? But that will be spiritually in the day of the Lord when that 7th trumpet sound. Spiritually. Alarm of war, war cry, battle cry, shout or blast of war or alarm, right? Or joy. So when you hear this trumpet, you're supposed to be joyful. The same reason you hear this Liberty Bell, that's supposed to be what? Let me see if we could look this up. The Liberty Bell is an iconic symbol of American independence and freedom, famously recognized by its distinct crack, originally housed in Philadelphia State. Right now, Independence Hall is globally renowned for its biblical, look at that, inscription. See that? Proclaim liberty throughout all. And that's what they're stealing from the scriptures, man. That's the spirit. So they're taking that from the Bible. A blind man can see that. Let's go back to the book of Leviticus. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee. Again, Jubilee, cry out, alarm. Everybody in the land is supposed to understand it's the year of Jubilee. On the 10th day of the 7th month, in the day of atonement, shall ye make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 15th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. Literally, it says unto all the inhabitants thereof. Thereof it shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possessions. Does America do that? Are they going to give back their possessions? No, they're not going to give back their possessions, man. And ye shall return every man into his family. Will we return to our families? No. Right? Look at this, man. These devils, man. Look at this. Now, a lot of people that travel miles and miles, they go to see the White House, they go see the Congress building, they go see Abraham Memorial, they go see the Liberty Bell, they go see all of these things, right? That constitutes the so-called great US of A. The US Treasury. They want to see these pivotal American history. Look at these people. They get off on this bill. Now, you have something called the John Hancock. Now, when somebody wants you to sign something, they say, well, give me your John Hancock. Now, your John Hancock was distinctive from the Declaration of Independence because he was the first one to sign it. And when he was the first one to sign it, his John Hancock, as they say, was the largest amongst all of the signees. Let me see. Was John Hancock the first to sign? Yes, John Hancock was the first to sign the Declaration of Independence. That's when people say, give me your John Hancock. So you're under all these spells in America and don't even know it. Hey, how are you doing, sir? Yes, I would like to get this job, sir. Yes, all I need is your John Hancock. Sign it right on there. Yes, sir, I'll give you my John Hancock. Right? You're saying bless you when people sneeze. Give me your John Hancock. You're doing this, you're doing this. You're following all of these things that have nothing to do with the Bible, man, that you picked up in Babylon. John Hancock was the first to sign the Declaration of Independence as president of the Second Continental Congress. He signed the historical document in Philly. So there's a lot of historical things going on in Philly. His large, prominent script gave rise to the American slang, John Hancock, which is still used to mean a person's signature. And all of that roots back to what? The Declaration of Independence, right? John Hancock did not write the Declaration of Independence. The document was primarily drafted by Thomas Jefferson, which again, I'm going to keep saying, it died on this very day, right? With edits from Benjamin Franklin, right? And John Adams. John Adams died on that day. John Hancock Rowe was serving as the president of the Continental Congress, making him the first to sign the historical document. Now look at this. You have the U.S. $2 bill. Features the Declaration of Independence introduced in 1976, right? For brothers that seen the $2 bill, right? They were signing this document. So they are extremely proud. And it was a man originally on the $2 bill. They removed him and put Thomas Jefferson on there, right? Because he was the one that really got that thing kicked off. You see, who was on the $2 bill before Jefferson? The first federal $2 bill issued in 1862 featured the nation's first Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton. So they had somebody originally on there, but they said, you know what? We got to beat our chest. We got to put these men so high up. That's why you see statues. When you go, if you've ever been to DC, let me see if I could pull it up. DC statues, let me see, of presidents. I don't know. Let's see if I can pull something out real quick. You'll see this all throughout DC, man. Everywhere you go. You'll see these men. And they'll show you this. This is even in the Bible. The Lord told you that they would do this in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 2nd chapter. Let me get that real fast. The Lord said they would leave tokens. Let's get that real fast. See if I can find this precept. That's the spirit. It's the book of Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 9. It's like in 9. Let none of us go without his part, meaning everybody has to enjoy all of the land, all of the riches, all of the wine, all of the women, all of the money, all of the fruit, right, that was stolen. Don't nobody get cut off without getting a little bit of this, of our voluptuousness. Let us leave tokens of our joyfulness. The tokens of their joyfulness are what, man? These are the tokens of their joyfulness. Their joyfulness is the wars they've wrought, the conquering of men, the slaves, the dominion. This is the tokens. You don't see these devils, man. Donald Trump is putting his face on a passport, I believe in 2027 or 2026. Let me see this real fast. Donald Trump put his face on the new passports. Why? Because he wants to be remembered, man. Check this out. Yes, the U.S. State Department released a limited edition commemorative 250th anniversary passport that predominantly features President Donald Trump's face on the inside cover. So these are their tokens. These are what they're leaving for generations and generations after them so that they could be proud. This was prophesied. Let me go back to it. It says, let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place, man. Everywhere you go, you see a flag, you see a statue, you see something proclaimed up of their history. For this is our portion, and this is, right, this, it's like in our lot is this. Let me go back to it. You know, so you see these, I'm trying not to, trying to choose my words wisely when I speak, right? But these devils, man, I'm gonna just say these devils, man. Look at the way they dress, man. It's just got sodomy dripped all over it. He got his hand on his hip. He got his legs crossed like a woman. They perming their hair. They slicking it back. They got on gloves, right? They got tight clothes on, right? And Lord knows what they're going to do after they celebrate the signing of this, right? Real fast, this is America gained parts of its territory from the Spanish through a combination of treaties, military victories, and strategy negotiations, right? But I touched on that, right? Florida, southwest of California, Puerto Rico, right? Now, when these things were going on, like I said, I got a lot of history I wanted to touch on. This is important because it's the beginning and spur of America. Somebody was, well, how was America formed? You know, that Christopher Columbus, he tripped and fell. He pushed on the gas. And he roomed in. They hit the land. He fell off of it. Somebody waved him down. They seen a fire with smoke. He came speaking. He taught them English. They taught him the Hebrew. They made love. All hell started breaking loose. They was in one unity. The rest of his family came over, and they had Thanksgiving. It didn't happen like that, man. Now, these are the major wars that was fought on American soil. The American Revolutionary War in 1775, 1783. The War of 1812, we touched on that, 1812 to 1815. The American Civil War from 1861 to 1865. The American Indian Wars, right? The 17th and 19th century. I was against our people. They warred for centuries and centuries, giving false treaties. The Mexican-American War, right? which again was parts of Spain and Spanish that had rule from 1846 to 1848, and the French Indian War in 1754 to 63. Additional World War II reached U.S. soil through Navy battles and invasions. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of, let's go to the law. Let's go to Numbers chapter 35, the classic, verse 33. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are. So when the land is polluted, you can't live on that land. That land is polluted. Now, it's prophesied that the Lord, through the hand of the elect, will cry out for judgment on blood on the land. Let's get that in the book of Job, chapter 16. This is Job chapter 16. And I'm going to start right at verse number 18. O earth, cover not thou my blood. Who's saying this? The elect. The elect have been robbed. They have been raped. They have been unjustly been slaughtered. The Lord said, don't let the earth cover up my blood. What does that mean? Just being thrown in the ground. That's covering up the blood, because the blood is life. You take the life of man and you hide it. You put it in the earth, and now you're forgotten about. Nobody's asking about you from generations later. Did this man exist? You have no memorial. You cease to exist from future generations. The Lord is saying, look, I've been slain. I've been killed. O earth, cover not thou my blood, and let my cry have no place. Also now, behold, my witnesses in heaven. What does it mean? The witnesses in heaven is the same as Cain killing Abel. Abel went up to the third heaven and complained to the Most High. So the witness of the unjust dealings is now before the Heavenly Father, and my record is on high. So how much more the blood of everybody that's been unjustly slain in America, chiefly the Native Americans. Right? They've been slain. A lot of their blood is on their soil. It's not something I came up with. That's a fact. And their wars that they wrought with America lasted over 200 years, man. Now, if you think nothing is going to become of this, you got to think again. Let's go back to it. My record is on high, right? My friends scorn me, but mine eye poureth out tears unto God. Oh, that one might plead for a man with God. That's Yahushua. Yahushua is going to plead for us. He's the mediator. Oh, that one might plead for a man with God, man. And our Lord is going to stand up and do that, because our judgment is on high. As a man pleadeth for his neighbor, man. And we are our neighbor. When a few years are come, then shall I go the way whence I shall not return, man. Let's go back to it. All right. Now check this out. You have two different stances during the time of America's beginning. The central difference between the Union and the Confederate. So you had something called the Union and you had something called Confederacy. These were a branch that was split between slave owners and people that had people that didn't have slaves. Part of America was saying, look, man, let the slaves free. The other part of America was saying, we got to keep these slaves in. To the point where America was divided, even after winning these wars, coming together, because they had the flag of that snake chopped up, which means that they need to come together for those 13 colonies. That's not granted. So it started to be division in America of who wanted slaves and who didn't want slaves, to the part where America was sawn in half during this time. Let's read it. The central difference between the Union and Confederacy was their stance on slavery and federal authority. The Union, the North, fought to abolish slavery. What do you mean they fought? They were going against their own people. There were wars on America. We just touched on a lot of them, but there were wars amongst their own people of America. So America got so much blood. They got blood of the white man on it, their own people on it, the Native Americans on it, the French on it, the Spanish on it. It says, and preserved the United States as a single unified nation. So they said, look, we all need to come together, set the slaves free, and we could all be one nation. The Confederacy, the South, right, succeeded to protect and expand the enslavement of people and fought to defend states' rights to maintain human bondage. So they said, look, we're ready to fight for this, man. I'm not letting Jimbo go. I'm not letting little Susie go. Right? These are my slaves. And they ain't going nowhere. And all divisions started to happen. So it says the two sides also differed vastly on their economical infrastructure and resources. Because this is when America was spurling into mechanics, infrastructure, the economy was built up, machinery, architectural work. It's the beginning of their resolution and coming into this thing, huh? While a lot of them was kicking back, chewing on straw with that old like slave wicked mentality of the slave can do everything. They could pick the corn, they could pick the tobacco, they could pick the sugar, they could pick the cotton, they could do all the manual labor. So economic, right, and labor, the union economic was largely industrialized and based on manufacturing, whereas the Confederate economic was entirely agriculturally heavy reliant on the forced and compensated labor of enslaved people, man. That's why when you watch a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows, everybody wants to get the hell out of the South. Nobody wants to be in the South. They want to flee out of the South, man, because the South is racist. Your Mississippi, your Alabama, parts of Florida, right? Let me see this real quick. South states. Nobody wanted to be in the South during that time. Nobody wants to be in the South during this time. Your Virginia, right? Your North Carolina, your South Carolina, your Georgia, your Alabama, your Mississippi, your Louisianas, your Floridas, right? Parts of Maryland. So they all had a division. Infrastructure, population and resources, military strategy. So they couldn't even come together, even though they were supposed to, of their own freedom. The Union's goal was to invade and conquer the South, to force them back into the United States. That sounds like madness, man. Imagine now you got to kick down your brother's door and force him to serve the Lord. That sounds like a nation divided. So it says the Union's goal was to invade and conquer the South. So they wanted to subdue their own people, to force them back unto the United States. And chiefly, it's called United, even though it's full of division, cultures, madness, and religion. It's not united. It's full of sorcery and hypocrisy. But the United States are supposed to go together, while the Confederacy mainly fought the defensive war, hoping to outlast the North's political will to fight. Huh? That's something also you got to consider on the land, the Union versus Confederacy. Right? The Union states, California, Nevada, Oregon, Minnesota, right? Kansas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, New York, Pennsylvania, Maine. You got the Confederate states, Texas. These are thoroughbred Edomites. Your redneck, your redneck Edomites that don't give a damn Edomites. Never go to sleep Edomites. Always in a truck Edomites, man. You never leave that pickup truck. I've never seen them out. I've never seen them walk. It's a red-faced white man. Right? Yeah, him right there. He's your South. Now, if you see him late at night, you better call upon the name of the Lord, man. Because if he catch you, ain't gonna be nothing sweet. This ain't the movies. Get out of here, boy. This ain't what was that movie, Life? When Eddie Murphy said, "What? How much money is going to take to turn one of them white only pies to nigga pies, man? And any amount of money you can have to get this monkey face red devil to put down his torch, right?" Now check this out. Christopher Columbus, sponsored by Spain, so he came out of Spain, made 4 transatlantic voyages, right, to the Americas between 1492 and 1504. His first journey began on August 3rd, 1492. On October 12th, 1492, he made a landfall in the Bahamas, believing he had found a new route to Asia. So you have, we're not going to go through all of his voyages, but you have a man called Christopher Columbus. Now, he conquered, raped, robbed, his brothers know. Brothers went into history. Brothers fell asleep in history class. Brothers know a little bit about what's going on. Now, when he came to this land, you also had colonies being formed. Now, I want to touch on these colonies, because how did these colonies get the expansion to be able to flourish like they did? That's like Cain, man. When he got kicked out, right? Let me go to this. How was he able to build a city? Let's go to Genesis real fast. I want to touch on that because this was impossible. That's like me or another brother with a ship. That's all you have. Go to some other land with the little materials you got. That little sword gonna get dull after you chop it a couple times. The little food you got is gonna run out. The little Nick Schiff fishing rod you got is gonna break eventually. How would you be able to flourish in a land that you don't know the whereabouts? The temperatures want to drop. It's a lot that goes into how they survive that I wanted to touch on in these colonies as well, right? Most High willing, that precept come back to my mind. It slipped my mind, but I'm gonna dive back into it. Jamestown was, right, plagued by drought, toxic water. So Jamestown was in Virginia. If I'm not mistaken, that was one of the first colonies. Jamestown colony. Let me see. Was it the first colony? Was Jamestown the first? Slocky. Was Jamestown colony the first? Jamestown founded. Slocky. However, it was not absolutely first. Several others preceded it. Okay, con. Let me see. Jamestown first colony. What was the first colony in the United States? Right now it's saying Jamestown, Virginia. These links is, like I said, it's frustrating to study because you go into these things, you think you know them, right? Well, that's subject to be on trial. But one link is saying one thing, one link is saying the other. I thought it was one of the first. This is what it's saying it is. So if brothers got more extensive documentation and research, all praise to the Most High, bring it out. But Jamestown was plagued by drought. So one of the first settlements was Virginia. So as they got to Virginia, everything of Virginia started to be, as they say, on hell. The place was drought, toxic water, hostile conflictions. The colony nearly vanished during horrific starving time in 1609 to 1610, when diseases and famine killed more than 80% of the residents, reducing the population from 500 to 60. All hell started breaking loose, man. And how did they survive? What did they do to be able to survive? They befriended the Native Americans. This is how they survived. They learned everything. They learned what a wildebeest was. They learned how to fish. They learned how to siphon through water. They learned the hills, the terrains, the languages. They learned everything. What was poisonous, what wasn't poisonous. And they learned that because of befriending the Native American Indians. Let me get the classic. And I want to touch on that more and prove it. And once they've gotten their colonies flourishing and prospering, they turn their back on the Native American Indians and enslaved them, which built up their colonies in tobacco, which flourished into the spurling of uh, how they increased was through tobacco labor through slaves. So how do you come somewhere broke? You don't know what's going on. You're nearly dying. Hundreds of people are dying. You had to lean on Israel because we are what? The salt of the earth. What is salt? A preservative. It preserves things. Like the Lord said, he will give David a covenant by salt, an everlasting kingdom. So we preserve things. If Jacob is around, look at Laban. When Israel is around, look at the so-called white man. Your numbers going up, your TV, your music, your media, everything flourished and prospers and is preserved when it was about to flourish. And the stock market crashes, man. To Jake start punching them numbers, man. You seen the pursuit of happiness. So that's exactly what they did. They leaned it on Israel. Let's go to the book of Psalms, right? Chapter 55, right? Let's touch on that. In verse number 20. He have put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. And the Native Americans were at peace with him originally. He have broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Yeah, I'll give you guns. You know, you can have our women. You know, whatever we have, we're bringing it to you. Things they've never seen. Breaking bread, having treaties, bartering. But war was in his heart. The war was in his heart is what we about to touch on. Now look at this. You had an explorer called John Smith. He's also famous through Pocahontas. It's that same white man that was in Pocahontas, John Smith. Pocahontas. Let's see if I can put this up real quick. Pocahontas, John Smith. See if this is gonna come up. Pocahontas, like you go into the movie, Pocahontas, right? The Pocahontas people, notably for her association with colony settlement at Jamestown, Virginia, right? She was the daughter of, right? Let me see if I can find something on this. Let me see if I can find this. I said I don't want to spend too much time in this. But when you go in, this devil, there you go. It says English explorer John Smith have been contested by her document descendants. She is a subject for art, literature, and film, right? He started lusting after her, right? Now, we're not going to dive into it, but there go that devil right there. That's the point I wanted. So they started to befriend, right, the Native Americans. Now, when you diving into this, we're not going to read, you know, his whole biography, but he was a settler, an explorer, as they say. Really a conqueror, a colonist, right? Now, you say you nailed it. I said, what saved Jamestown Colony was the tobacco plant, and that's exactly what saved them. Slavery, right? Says you nailed it. The successful, right, cultivation, right, of sweeter, highly marketable strain of the tobacco plant in 1612 transformed Jamestown from disease and ridden fallen settlement. So what they did is they learned the ins and outs by the Native American Indians. And one of the first things they did on a voyage is bring in so-called, as they say, African slaves, which are the Israelites. And they took them from, I believe, the White Lion, one of the first slave ships called the White Lion, into higher profitable booming enterprise. So what saved America? When you go into these 13 colonies, when you start peeling back this onion ain't just a cookout. Then you peel back that onion. Why is the cookout? Okay, because they're worshiping freedom. Okay, our freedom? No. Peel back the other onion, huh? The freedom of who? Freedom of America. Peel back up from who? From British. Well, how? Right? Through the wars. Diving into it. American Revolution. That stemmed off of the Boston Tea Party. You keep peeling it back, got the 13 colonies. One of the first ones, you got what? Virginia. Virginia was going down, so it becoming a nation and it spurling up was through slavery, through wars, through violence, right? It says tobacco plant, right? So like I read that. English colonist John Rolfe imported seed from West Indies to Rarity, Virginia, because European settlers disliked the harsh native types of tobacco grown in. Right, I'm gonna rush right there. Check this out. The White Lion was an English privateer vessel that famously brought the first recorded enslaved Africans, right, Israelites, to English colonies of Virginia in August 1619. So, what saved America, right, was slavery, called the White Lion. And it had many voyages. Many voyages. This is the beginning and birth of America. Now you have the Pilgrims, right? Again, I spoke about Massachusetts and the 13 colonies. This is one of the 13 colonies being built up too. So it wasn't just Virginia that was scratching and itching and barking and hollering at the moon because they didn't know how to survive, man. They're not a people of surviving. You got them Amish people. They still live like it's, damn, Lord knows, man. If it wasn't for Israel, they would still be living like this. No electricity, no working toilet, no car. These are all our inventions, man. See where Henry Ford got his first car parts, is an understanding of motor vehicles from. The air conditioner. All things that help the AC, that was invented by a so-called black woman. Right? They'll be living like this, man. This is exactly how they will be living. In the middle of nowhere. With no understanding how to flourish and survive. Let me go back to it. The Pilgrims were English separatists who filed persecution, right, in Europe and established Plymouth Mouth colony in Massachusetts, arriving on the Mayflower. And Mayflower was another slave ship. In November 1620, they dropped anchor at Cape Cod before settling permanently in Plymouth Mouth Harbor on December 16th, 1620. Look at this. This is the point I wanted. First winter, roughly 100 passengers faced a harsh winter, suffering from disease and lack of shelter. So these Edomites, they didn't know how to survive in these 13 colonies. They didn't know what the hell they was doing. Almost half of the settlers died by the spring. Native American retaliation. The remaining Pilgrims survived and built sustainable communities with the help of local indigenous Wampanoag people, man. So how did they survive? By the help of the Native Americans. And that's one of their first things that they did wrong. They had that Hezekiah mentality. You know, when you read the book of Isaiah, right, Hezekiah, he helped the heathen, man. He showed them his house, his precious things. That's something you ought not to do, man. You ought not to trust your enemy. Don't let him in your house, right? Let me get this real fast. This is Isaiah chapter 39 and verse number 1. At that time, Merodach Baladan, right? Evil Merodach Baladan. Why would you trust a man named Evil Merodach Baladan, man? It's such a wicked name. Pull this up real quick. Evil. Gotta put the evil in front of it, man. You had Evil Merodach, also known as Amal Merodach, a Neo-Babylonian king, right? I don't know if brothers can hear that. They shooting out there, man. Right? Historical, biblical, right? We're not going to dive into it. Merodach Baladan II, Merodach Bel, all stemming from evil, right? Let me go back to it. It says, at that time, Merodach Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and presence to Hezekiah, for he had heard that he had been sick and was recovered. And this wasn't sincere. You think this was sincere, or did he have war in his heart? And Hezekiah was glad of them and shewed them the house of his precious things. And once you start to open up and show, everybody what's going on in your house, you start to reveal things, secrets, things that help you flourish, your family, your goods. Lord said, give that not which is profitable unto thee to a strange nation in the book of Baruch, man. It says precious things and the silver and the gold and the spices and the precious ointments and all the house of his armor and all that was found in his treasuries. There was nothing in his house, knowing all dominion that Hezekiah shewed them not. And then what happened, man? They robbed him. I'm not going to read this whole account. That's the last thing you want to do is help. So they erred and fell short, right? Doing this, which essentially helped them, which hurt us, right? Shalaki, we already touched on that. All right, we touched on that. All right, we touched on that. Pull up these things. Right, the slaves of the United States were freed gradually through the series of key legal milestones between 1863 and 1865. Right, we touched on that also. How America was divided. They didn't want anybody to come in. All hell started breaking loose. But that's not the spirit, right, you really want. And somewhere you call home. And America isn't your home, man. All right. And that's all they did through process of time is continue to grow and conquer lands. Let me get one more quick precept on that. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 35, Salakia 37, in verse 35. I have seen the wicked in great power. That's the so-called white man. And spreading himself like a green bay tree. What's the anatomy? What's the treology of a green bay tree, man? It said it's spreading itself. Right? And that's exactly what he does. He done went to all of these multiple lands in sake of what a home. And now that America has been established for years, the streets have been built, the empire is settled, the architectural lay is laid out, they've built up all of what you call the US of A. They've united, right? So-called black people are set free. They got the government. Everything's in order. They're now celebrating their 250th year, right, of independence. But that doesn't mean anything to you, man. It would never mean anything to you. You got to come out of America, man, before it's too late. And if you don't, you will be put to death, man. This is not a game. This is not a joke, right? Let me get about 2 more precepts and I'm going to close out. Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 13, man. Stop trusting everything you hear from America, too. When the rich man speaketh, every man hold his tongue, man. Everybody's quick to say what Donald Trump got to say, what these elites got to say, what's going on in the White House. And if you plan to come out to the 4th of July rebuke, they're projecting over 2 million people out there. So it's going to be a lot of drunk Edomites. It's going to be a lot of hillbillies. There's going to be a lot of people that are drunk, raging, in celebration, painting their stomachs, their bellies, and outright lewdness and evil, right? As there's fireworks. It's very spiritual, man, right? It's very, very spiritual. They got fireworks shooting. They got Secret Service on the roof. If you've ever been out there, For brothers that don't live, by the White House and other states, they got Secret Service on the roof, right? On the roof, you see, at the White House. For brothers that know, they know. They may not show it, but they be on the roof. Yeah, they be just like this, right? And they be waiting for any false move. Anybody to blink too hard, the cough too bad, the spit somewhere they're not supposed to, and they're watching. They got cameras on the light post. So they're going to be vigilant over everything that's going on. And we teach, right in front of the gates of the White House through the spirit and boldness and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, man. And you have boldness in this truth. See, boldness comes from Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. It doesn't come from you, how you feel. And we come right through these gates. Literally, you could touch the gates, and we shake the hand against the White House. And most high willing, that's what we're going to do, man. We're going to do it in boldness, and we're going to be protected by the holy angels in the spirit of the Most High through his beloved son Yahushua, as we do every year. And we're going to continue to shake the hand until this place goes down, as the prophets did from old, man. And the beautiful thing about prophesying, it don't get old. Watching TV get old. Playing your favorite game and beating levels, it get old, man. Going to see a movie over and over, your favorite movie, it get old. Wearing your favorite pair of shoes, it get old. You going out, you be like, I want to go out. Tonight I want to stay in. That gets old. Everything in this world gets old. Teaching don't get old, man. It's always a new breakdown. It's always an etymology word you didn't know. It's always something you need to uncover that has been covered by the Most High. And it's always that flame that gets reunited every single time you say these words, man. It brings you back to life. Your flame flickering. You're sitting up there, you falling asleep. Your arms are folded. If you're not laboring in the last days, you got to consider if you're called into the vineyard, because you will not receive a penny, man. Those that receive a penny are those that are laboring. The Most High is calling you, man. But you have to be able to rise up through the spirit and come into this vineyard and work. All right? Let me get the mighty book of Psalms. All right? We get two more. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 60 and verse 9. Who will bring me into the strong city? Who will lead me into Edom, man? So as we go out there, we're going to war, right? Not physically, but spiritually. Will not thou, O Yahweh, which had cast us off, and thou, O God, which didst not go out with our armies? So the Most High is going to lead us in a battle. Give us help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. We don't care about carnal weapons, nor are we scared, nor does it matter that we're outnumbered, man. The heat is going to be against us. It's going to be over 100 degrees, huh? It's going to be over 100 degrees out there, right? Heat's going to be against us. The nations are going to be against us. The elements are going to be against us. But the Most High will be for us. Who could be against us? It says, through Yahweh, we shall do valiantly, for he is it that shall tread down our enemies. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 3, and verse number 2. Be watchful. That's a commandment. You have to be watchful in these last days. You have to watch diligently and see the signs of the earth. And two, you got to watch spiritually to consider your household and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. For I have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come in thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So Most High willing, man, brothers, continue to watch, labor, put forth their best hand, to strive for perfection, right? Not make excuses. Show yourself a man. Continue to prophesy. Continue to wake up. Continue to be strong. Continue to shun off fables, false doctrines. Grow in the last days. The Lord said the house of David waxed stronger and stronger. The house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. Don't wax weak in these last days, man. Stop giving the things of this life and the cares of this life preeminence over the work of the Most High. Don't build your life, right, with the truth being on a back burner and your responsibilities and things of this world above that, man. Why? Because you'll start to trust in this world, picking up extra shifts. Lord said the opportunity of wisdom cometh by leisure, opportunity of leisure, paraphrasing great. He that have little business shall be wise. So really see where you're prioritizing the work of the Most High and His truth. And Most High willing, the Most High will have you continue to grow. But with that, man, Most High willing, this was edifying. I want to give all honor and all glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Ba'ashema Mashiach, Malak Yahushua. Shalom.